The evening had settled into that quiet in-between when the world seemed to hold its breath. Not quite night, not fully day. The air smelled faintly of exhaust and damp earth, the kind of scent that clung to the city after a long afternoon of restless weather. Daniel adjusted the strap of his worn leather bag as he walked with Evan, his 9-year-old son, toward the bus stop. He'd picked him up from soccer practice, and though Evan's hair was plastered with sweat and his sneakers were scuffed, his grin told Daniel everything he needed to know. It had been a good day for him. They were chatting idly, Evan retelling a dramatic goal, Daniel half listening, half thinking about the bills stacked on the counter at home when he noticed her. At first, she was just another small figure on the bench, feet not reaching the ground, swinging nervously, a backpack too large for her tiny frame resting beside her. But then Daniel caught the tremor in her shoulders, the way her little hand came up to wipe at her eyes quickly, as if she didn't want anyone to see. "Dad," Evan whispered, slowing his steps. "She's crying." Daniel followed his son's gaze. The girl couldn't have been older than 7. Her braids were loose, strands of light brown hair falling across her wet cheeks, and her dress looked like it had been worn too many times, once bright, now faded, the hem fraying. She didn't notice them at first. Her gaze was glued to the ground, lips pressed together to hold back the sound of her sobs. Daniel felt the familiar ache in his chest, that protective instinct that never seemed to turn off once he'd become a father. He hesitated only a second, scanning the empty street. No adults in sight, just her. Just a little girl trying to disappear into herself. He walked over slowly, crouching so his height wouldn't scare her. "Hey there," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The girl startled, looking up at him with wide, watery eyes. She didn't answer, only clutched the straps of her backpack tighter, as if afraid he might take it away. Evan edged closer, his voice gentler than Daniel had ever heard it. "Don't cry. We're nice. I'm Evan." Something shifted in her expression. Her lips parted, as if she wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, her eyes darted between father and son, measuring them. Finally, in the faintest whisper, she said, I don't want to go home." The words hit Daniel like a stone to the chest. He swallowed, searching her face. "Why not?" Her little chin trembled. "He'll be mad." Daniel's pulse quickened. He knew better than to push too hard. Kids didn't offer truths easily, especially when fear had wrapped itself around them so tightly. But he also couldn't just leave her sitting there, waiting for someone who might not care if she cried herself raw. "Okay," he said gently, glancing at Evan, then back at her. "How about we walk you home together? We'll make sure you're safe." She hesitated, torn between fear and hope. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. Her small hand slipped into Evan's, surprising them both. The boy squeezed lightly, giving her a smile that seemed to say, "You can trust us." Daniel felt his throat tighten. The walk to her house wasn't far, but every step felt heavier. The girl, whose name they learned was Lily, grew quieter the closer they came to her street. By the time they reached a peeling white house with a flickering porch light, her grip on Evan's hand had gone rigid. The door opened before Daniel could knock. A man filled the frame, tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of presence that demanded attention even before he spoke. His expression was carved with irritation, lips curled into a sneer as his eyes flicked over Daniel, then dropped to Lily. "There you are," he snapped, ignoring Daniel entirely. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused me?" Lily shrank back, pressing closer to Daniel's side. Daniel stepped forward, keeping his voice calm but firm. "We found her crying at the bus stop. She looked scared. I thought it best to walk her home." The man's eyes narrowed. "She's fine." She exaggerates. "Always has." But Lily's tiny hand trembled against Daniel's arm, and in that moment he noticed something else, a faint bruise on the girl's wrist, half hidden beneath the sleeve of her dress. His stomach turned cold. Before he could say more, the man's voice grew sharper. "You can go now. She's my responsibility." Daniel wanted to argue, to demand answers, but Lily's eyes were pleading with him, begging silently not to make things worse. And in that helpless look, Daniel knew. He saw the truth written in the way her shoulders hunched, the way she tried to make herself small. He reluctantly nodded, though every fiber of his being rebelled against it. "Take care of her," he said tightly. The door shut with a finality that made Daniel's chest ache. That night, he couldn't sleep. He paced the kitchen long after Evan had gone to bed, replaying Lily's face, her whispered confession, her fear. He poured himself a glass of water, set it down untouched, and stared at the clock. Midnight passed, then 1, then 2. Every sound outside made him glance toward the window, expecting, hoping he might see her small figure again. And then, just before dawn, the phone rang. His hands shook as he picked it up. On the other end was a trembling voice. "Mr. Daniel? It's Lily, please. Don't leave me here." He didn't ask how she got his number. He didn't question. He just grabbed his keys, woke Evan, and drove. They found her in the park near her house, curled up on a bench with her backpack clutched to her chest. Her eyes lit up when she saw him, and she ran into his arms without hesitation. Daniel held her tightly, his throat burning as she sobbed against him. "You're safe," he murmured, stroking her hair. "I promise you're safe." From that moment on, life changed. It wasn't easy. Mark, the man who claimed to be her stepfather, showed up days later, demanding she be returned. There were threats, arguments, paperwork, social workers who doubted and delayed. But Daniel didn't back down. He couldn't. Not after seeing what Lily endured. Not after hearing Evan whisper to her one night, "Don't worry, you're my sister now." Slowly, Lily began to heal. She laughed more, ate without flinching, slept through the night without waking in terror. She held Daniel's hand in crowded places, called him Dad without hesitation, and leaned on Evan as if he had always been her brother. The day the courts finalized her placement, Daniel cried quietly in the hallway, overwhelmed with relief. Lily hugged him, whispering, "Thank you for finding me." And in that instant, he knew the truth. He hadn't found her. She had found him. And together, they had built something stronger than blood, a family born from love, from kindness, from a choice to stop for a little girl crying at a bus stop.